It says I'm live. Hi. Oh, my dad's already there. Hi, Dad. And I think my mom is already there. Hi, Mom. And let's see. Welcome to Frankenstein Tea. I know the light just changed. Not a ghost. They're motion censored, and so they change. Let's see. Frankenstein Tea is an everyday program at 3 p.m. live from the Island Free Library. With me, I'm Kristen. I'm the director of the Island Free Library. I read a variety of short stories. They differ in length, they differ in genre, they differ in time of publication, in style. They're contemporary, they're old-fashioned, they're for adults. I definitely have been given that feedback. You know, there's swearing, there's sexuality in them, there's sex in them. You know, it's an adult story for sure. But that was really my goal. You know, we had Miss Morgan, our youth services librarian, doing programming for the preschool age kids, and she's working on programming for other age kids. And I wanted to do something for adults, some way to check in with people, some way to stay connected to you, some way that perhaps I could entertain you, or, you know, just be present with you for even a short amount of time. And I'm going to continue that. Block Island is no longer shelter in place, although it is. I don't know what the word is. I should look it up on our town ordinance. It's not like it's recommended. It's you know, we're restricted somewhat still, right? We should only go to the mainland for what do they call those, priorities, or, you know, like really, you know, you don't just go to the mainland to go to Marshall's, right? You need to go to for food, for a doctor's appointment, you know, for an essential activity. So, you know, we're still restricted. And I think people are still restricting themselves, and that's fair enough. And you may be restricting yourself for some time to come. So during that time, I will still be here every day at 3. And I've been thinking about that with time change and longer days and seasonal changes, and perhaps some people returning to work. I'm going to stick with 3. I like it as an afternoon check-in. I like to be able to say to you, how's your morning going? Great. If it's great, keep it up. If it was lousy, you got time to change it up, right? So I like this 3 o'clock thing. I've also know from experience that 3 o'clock, you know, sometimes in the workplace, that's a little bit of a slump time. I think that's like a fact, right? I think like there's some biorhythm there that happens at 3 o'clock. So it's an okay time to take a time out and listen to a short story for a few minutes and sit back and relax. So that's all to say that I will be here at 3 o'clock for some time to come still. And I guess that's enough of an explanation of what Frankenstein Tea is for today. Sometimes I give a little bit about why I named it that, the program that, and of course it's a reference to the monster of a time that we're in, and the monster of a virus that's happening. And also a reference to like permissible recording of stories. And Frankenstein is one of those that's permissible. But we should be clear that in this time of COVID, publishers and authors have you know, let go of some of the stringency there. They're less stringent about what can be recorded, and certainly there's no money being made here. So as people have heard me say before, I treat this as reader's advisory. So I pick books that aren't always my favorite, but maybe they're yours. And maybe you'll come in sometime when this library gets to reopen sometime in the future and say, hey, remember that story? What book was that in? So this is what librarians do. We do reader's advisory. So that's what Frankenstein Tea is pretty much about. So does everybody have tea? What are you having today? I'm having water. I just had some coffee and I didn't have time to make tea, so I'm having a little water. and it's sunny here, and it's windy here, and the sky is blue. And my mother told me she went for a nice long walk, so she has her eyes closed. And, I like that. You can do whatever you need to do during this time. You can also listen to it whenever you want to listen to it. I thought about that. I read something hard the other day. It had a lot of stuff going on in it. And I thought, well, that's okay. People can listen again, right? So listen twice. If you didn't quite get the story the first time, listen again. Listen 3 times, share it with someone and have them listen. Who knows what that looks like? I'll just say one other thing about the YouTube channel, because I take my advice from a 16-year-old who I live with, my son, and he says you should all subscribe and send me comments if you can. So, Poppy, thanks for commenting, and you should like it if you can. He says that all goes into an algorithm about YouTube, and what that will do is that will connect our page as well as what you're watching to other YouTube events that are similar to this. So maybe other libraries out there, maybe other people reading stories, maybe other book talks, maybe author events. So it works to our advantage as well as to your advantage as to what's going to be populated on your YouTube page through an algorithm that includes likes, subscriptions, and comments. Who knew, right? Wow, there are some really brilliant people out there running the show, but we'll play along. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. If your comment page is up, send me a hello or ask me about the story, and definitely give it a like and share it. Okay, today is Tuesday. Let me check my computer. May 12th, Tuesday. I am at the Island Free Library, and I am reading something called Points North. It is by Howard Frank Mosher. He's actually my son's father's favorite. So he wrote something that people may know called Where the Rivers Flow North. He wrote something called A Stranger in the Kingdom. He wrote something called North Country, Northern Borders, Waiting for Teddy Williams. He has a list here. And this one he wrote just before his death. It says Points North, finished weeks before his death. So it is published by St. Martin's Press. It was published in 2018. And I am reading a short story. And again, Howard Frank Mosher, name of the collection is Points North. I am reading a short story called Friendship, Indiana. Friendship, Indiana. Two Fingers Kinnison lost a game of chicken to a muskrat trap when he was 6 years old. In exchange for the 3 digits sheared off by the steel jaws of the victor number 4, the village conferred upon him his name, TF for short, and it stuck. He and his brother, the city of St. Louis, who'd come into this world at a cool 22 pounds and continued that trajectory, were carnival roustabouts and small-time con men. They'd grown up on a rundown Vermont farm, scions of the moonshining, deer-jacking, whiskey-running branch of the ubiquitous Kinnisons of Kingdom County. From their earliest boyhood, TF and the city were inseparable. They shot out-of-season deer together, dropped out of third grade together at the ages of 12 and 14, and the next summer went larruping off on the northern New England fair circuit with the Suggs brothers' midway extravaganza and menagerie of human wonderments. The boys started out working setup and takedown. Soon they were operating kiddie rides, manning the Cupid doll booth, and Hammer and Bell. It was Two Fingers who came up with the Sunny Boy Fund. Wait up, mister. I see this billfold drop out of your pocket at the baseball throw. The mark's hand shot to his hip pocket, the one Two Fingers had just lifted the wallet from. On the sucker's face, panic, then relief as TF handed it back to him. That's when Two Fingers would produce the cut-off plastic milk jug with a crumpled one and a few sorry dimes and quarters on the bottom and give it a sad shake. Sunny Boy Fund, he scrawled on the side of the jug with a magic marker. It's an awful slow way to pay for little Bubba's treatments, but TF's voice would falter and the hook was set. The Sunny Boy Fund worked about 80% of the time. The city, for his part, was something of a savant. He was mechanically inclined and could repair any ride on the midway. He could run the shell game and guess your age within a year and your weight within a pound. Barked ballyhoo for the girly show, dealt backjack to the lot lice behind the Sugg Brothers camper after hours. At 15, he began driving the 18-wheel generator truck that powered the rides from fair to field day to dairy festival, with TF up front in the rig with him to read the road signs. Out on the highway, the brothers came upon many a late-night wreck. Against the expressed instructions of the Suggs brothers, in fact, there was only one Suggs who traveled in the camper truck with the elderly gals from the girly show. TF and the city usually stopped to offer what assistance they could, which often wasn't much, especially when alcohol, speed, and teenagers were involved. A year or so later, they might come upon a makeshift roadside memorial at the site of a crash they'd witnessed the last time through. Fading white crosses, garlands of plastic flowers from the local Dollar Tree, hand-lettered epitaphs on scarred bridge abutments and trees, like the cardboard placard on the huge sugar maple in the fork of the Y just south of the Kingdom County Fairgrounds. We will always love you, Troy and Brandy, the class of '92. Two Fingers shook his head as he read the sign aloud. It ain't much, is it? They deserve better, if I do say so, the city replied, braking for the junction. Port or starboard? Starboard. Okie dokie. I missed out money would be any object, Two Fingers said. I missed out it would be. Well then, TF said a minute later, and it was settled. Don't count on your jobs being here when you come crawling back broke 2 months from now, the Suggs brother said. You two jump ship now, you're down the road for good. We'll finish out the Vermont circuit, TF said. We wouldn't want to leave you short-handed. The boys, whose word was golden, worked out the season. They told Suggs so long on the last night of the state fair in Rutland. They'd been with him for 19 years. Crazy bastards, he said by way of farewell, knowing he'd never be able to replace them. The day after parting company with the carnival, the brothers picked up a local penny saver and bought from a recently widowed octogenarian in Manchester who didn't drive, a 12-year-old Buick Roadmaster with 28,000 easy miles on the odometer. The city, who now estimated his own weight at between 428 and 429 pounds, removed the springs and installed reinforced struts all around. At a pawn shop in Virgins, they picked up a used CB with a police band scanner. A Radio Shack in Winooski gave them a discount on a GPS and a magnetic blue light for the Buick's roof. I reckon we're as ready as we're going to be, TF said. Wedged in behind the Roadmaster's steering wheel, with the electronically operated front seat set all the way back, the city nodded. I reckon we are. Two Fingers made a gesture like a wagon master giving the signal to start up over Donner's Pass. Forward ho, he said, and they power glided off into the night on the next leg of the road trip that had become their life. With the scanner, the GPS, and the flashing blue light, the brothers were frequently the first players to arrive at the scene of an accident. Often they reached a wreck even before the ambulance chasing shysters. For starters, they returned to their stomping grounds in Kingdom County to practice. "I'm not telling you what to do, sir, but word is your boy, young Troy, was the best ball player ever to come out of the academy. What I and my brother here was thinking, we could take and mount a nice orange basketball hoop from the wall mark on that wicked old maple tree, light her up with one of them mercury yard lights, maybe display Troy's uniform top and the prom dress Brandy was wearing that night under glass." Of course, everyone knew that at the time of the wreck, Brandy hadn't been wearing her prom dress or one stitch else, but that was a technicality. Bingo. It was easy as apple pie. Two Fingers discovered in himself a genuine artistic flair. The city, who'd never said much to anyone but his brother, was a born listener. Together, they were unstoppable. Years slipped by. Almost despite themselves, the boys' con slipped into something like legitimacy. When a 747 en route from Paris to New York crashed into a blossoming apple orchard near Brattleboro, killing everyone aboard, the brothers raised $1 million for their pièce de résistance, a memorial wall of white Vermont marble inscribed with the name of each casualty. They upgraded from roadways and Motel 6s to Comfort Inns and Best Westerns. Downtime, in the late afternoons and early evenings, they watched their favorite movies, buddy flicks mainly, Lonesome Dove, The Wild Bunch, Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott. When the Roadmaster's odometer turned over the fourth time, they replaced it with a Coupe de Ville right off the assembly line and as red as a Green Mountain sunset. Now in their late 40s, the boys began to take a few working vacations. They'd spent the better part of a morning at the Wax Museum of the Criminally Insane at Niagara Falls, lollygagged through wall drug, gawked at the fragments of alien spacecrafts in Roswell. They joked about the names of certain towns they passed through, Bird in Hand and Intercourse. "Hit your brake pedal, brother mine." Two Fingers had almost missed the sign, hanging by a nail from a lone fence post at a forsaken country crossroads. Friendship, Indiana. Into the DeVille's trunk it went, on permanent loan from Hoosier country. Not that everything was sweetness and light between them. Like an old married couple who'd been through it all together, the brothers looked the other way a lot. And they never did see eye to eye on healthcare. Two Fingers ran to the local clinics and ERs on the slightest pretext. The city, on the other hand, didn't hold with doctoring. You commenced a doctor, brother. Next you know, they sock you in the hospital. People die in hospitals. They die at home too, TF said, especially when they refuse to go to the doctor. Still, both brothers were shocked when Two Fingers' PSA count on his annual blood work at the clinic in Kingdom Common came back through the roof, up 20 points from a safe 1.6 the year before. The local doc shipped him to Hanover for a biopsy, and Hanover gave him 3 months at the outside. "There," TF said, as though he'd prophesied that this or worse was bound to happen. "I guess we best pay a call on Cousin Charles." By the time the documents had been drawn up, signed, and notarized, it was getting on evening. The boys invited their cousins, attorney Charles Kinnison and editor Jim Kinnison, to dinner at the Common Hotel. Over steak sandwiches, they finalized a few details. Then the city and TF headed south out of town with no fixed destination. The city said he was beat, so TF drove. Always something to take the joy out of living, brother, Two Fingers said as they passed the dark fairgrounds. The city didn't reply immediately. In fact, he didn't reply at all. TF knew even before he reached over and placed his first two fingers on his brother's massive neck and got nothing. Port or starboard? Two Fingers said anyway, as the silhouette of the big sugar maple and the fork of the Y came into relief in the headlights. Okie dokie. TF goosed the caddy into overdrive and locked in on the maple. Good riding with you, he told his brother a split second before impact. The backhoe cost Charlie and Jimmy $110 an hour for 3 hours work. The flatbed wrecker set them back another $250. They could have charged the boys' estate, but they decided that every penny of that should go to Hanover, as the city and Two Fingers had stipulated. The hoe hit solid ledge 3 times before it scooped out a hole large enough to accommodate the caddy and its occupants. Charlie nailed the plank sign to a cedar post, which he drove deep into the raw blue clay with the splitting maul he'd brought along for that purpose. In accordance with Two Fingers' will, he read aloud the first page of Lonesome Dove. It was early September. The leaves had just started to turn. The sunlight had mellowed over the past month, and a cidery scent hung in the amber-tinted air. Seasons changing, Charlie said to break the silence as he and his brother started back down the mountainside together. Everything changes. Not quite, Jim said, nodding back at the sign on the post. Friendship, Indiana. It still said in faded dark letters. Then in fresh paint just below, P.O.P. period. Population 2. That was a short story by Howard Frank Mosher from a book called Points North. That story is called Friendship, Indiana. Thanks for coming to Frankenstein Tea. Maybe my father or my mother could get that up to, some of our Vermont family, and our extended Vermont family. I think that one, should go out to Al. Oh, my dad's giving me a hum. So, have a good afternoon. Dad, again, you can re-listen anytime. Thanks for coming today. I'll be back here tomorrow at 3:00. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a good time out. Mom, if you're sleeping, have a good nap. And I'll see you all soon.